Good evening, everyone. I'm Todd Stewart. I'm ASC's Vice President of Public Art. I want to welcome you all to the Mecklenburg County Ezell Farms Community Park Public Art Meeting. The purpose of tonight's meeting is for us to introduce the project artist, Meredith Connelly, to you all, provide a brief project overview. If everyone can mute your audio, please. Thank you. So yeah, like I was saying, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to introduce artist Meredith Connelly, who is our project artist for the Ezell Farms Community Park Public Art. I'll give a brief overview of the ASC Public Art process, followed by a project overview of this specific project. And then we're going to turn it over to Meredith to lead you through a series of questions. Responses we hope will inspire her in her concept development for the Ezell Community Park Public Art. Before I begin, I want to make everyone aware that tonight's presentation is being recorded, both the audio video and the transcript. And you'll see on your screen in the toolbar, if you would please, everyone go ahead and mute yourselves if you have not already. We want to hear from you later, but while people are presenting, we just ask that we mute so that we can hear them as clearly as possible. If you go over to the reactions key on your toolbar, you'll be able to raise your hand. That'll notify us if you have a question. Myself, Rendella Foster, or someone else with the team will call on you and let you share any comments or questions you may have. And while we're presenting, if you have a comment or a question that you want to put in the chat, please feel free to do so. You can do that by hitting this button and then typing your message in the scroller. And you can either share that with everyone or someone specifically. So a little bit about ASC Public Art. ASC has been responsible for managing the public art program for the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and the airport, which is under the city. Since 2002 and 2003, when both the city and the county adopted 1% for art ordinances. So these ordinances designate 1% of eligible capital improvement project funds to the creation of public art associated with those projects. ASC has been involved in public art management since 1992, so even predating that ordinance. At that point, a lot of it was private donations of public art to the city and county collections, and we helped them with those brokerages. To date, we've completed 175 projects, and we currently have 41 in process. ASC believes that public art serves as a catalyst for connectivity, bonding people to a place and one another, generating a greater sense of pride and responsibility for places that enhance quality of life and celebrate communities' unique attributes. Our artist selection process takes many different means and methods. Typically, we release calls to artists, and those are either requests for qualifications or requests for proposals, allowing artists to submit applications to be eligible for public art and possibly winning commissions. That whole process is overseen by the Public Art Commission, which is a 9-member volunteer board comprised of appointees by the City of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and the Arts and Science Council. So they oversee the artist selection as well as all the various design phase approvals for the public artworks. Artist selection panels are instrumental to this whole process. We typically work with arts and design professionals, community representatives, and different project liaisons to help us determine finalists for these projects, and then the commission artists, and they present those recommendations to the Public Art Commission for approval. Artists are evaluated on originality and creativity of past work, professional qualifications and experience, exemplary technical competence, consistent quality and production of artwork, and comparable scale of past work to the projects that they are applying for. We also have ASC's Regional Artist Directory. This was an effort that we published about 2 years ago. It was a way of us to get more North Carolina and South Carolina artists within our public art collection and provide a way for ASC to contract with them directly. So this was a pre-approved list of artists. We have 67 artists on that list, and all of those artists are eligible for city, county, and airport projects with budgets of $100,000 or less. So Meredith, our artist for this project, was actually a recipient of this commission through that process, the Regional Artist Directory. Community engagement, like we're dialoguing in tonight, happens in various ways throughout the project. And it's a requirement for all of ASC's projects. So community representatives participate on artist selection panels, as I just described, in that whole process. Artists dialogue with communities, and this ensures that the artwork is created with the community's voice in mind, much like we're doing tonight. And then community involvement can be further facilitated throughout the artist process in terms of concept development or even creating the work. Various times for different projects, artists have workshopped with communities to create either design features or specific parts of the end artworks that are installed on site. But our artists have also done surveys, presentations, talks, and different dedications to include the community further in the process. For further information about this project or ASC in general, please reach out to myself, Todd Stewart. My contact information is listed there, or Rendella Foster, who is our project manager for public art. You can also visit us at our website at artsandscience.org with specific links for public art. You'll find our calls to artists listed on that website as well. And that will be a revolving list of all the RFQs, RFPs, or different artist opportunities that we have available. And for regular updates on ASC, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at ASC Charlotte. So now I'm going to turn it over to ASC's project manager, Rendella Foster, to provide a project overview for the Mecklenburg County Ezell's Farm Community Park.
Thank you, Todd. And you can advance to the next slide, please. So the Ezell Farms Community Park will be located at 4101 Mintwood Drive in Mint Hill. The budget for this project is $73,100. That covers all costs that are associated with the creation of the public art, the artist design fees, the design, the engineering, the permitting, if there's any testing that has to be done, as well as any, as well as the fabrication and installation of the artwork in addition to insurance for the project. The project background. So this site was previously a privately owned farm that Mecklenburg County purchased. It's a little over 90 acres of mostly rolling terrain. The property lies within the Goose Creek watershed and within the Mint Hill post-construction stormwater ordinance district. The county's vision for this park is that it have a historic farm theme with agrarian and nature-based activities. Those are activities related to the education and preservation of nature or the sustainable cultivation of the land and the advancement of local agricultural groups. This park will serve residents who reside within a 15-minute drive of the park. The park has 2 phases for development. Phase 1 will include a splash pad, tennis courts, a full court for basketball, a community garden with some improvements that will be made, and an informal amphitheater, an open field play area, an open architecture pavilion structure, a nature play area, restroom and pool house, a multi-use path along Highway 51, walking trails and ponds, as well as the public art. The anticipated completion is fall 2023, spring 2024. Phase 2 amenities are to be determined. And next slide. So we just have a few images to show you. This is an aerial site map of the property. As you can see, it borders Matthews Mint Hill Road as well as Mintwood Drive. 90 acres is pretty big, so there's a lot going to be happening here. Next slide. And these are some existing site conditions and features of the property in case you have not been to the site. It shows the existing community garden that's there, as well as the gravel access lane, In addition to just a beautiful scene, you see the mature tree grove, you see the pastures. It's just really, really beautiful. The next slide. And additional imagery, the farm pond with the wooded background, as well as additional, we probably could take lots and lots of images of the pasture because it's just a lot. You also see the Will Road toward Matthews Mint Hill Road image here as well. And the next slide. And then there's the pond. This is looking across the farm pond from the dam, imagery of the vast pasture, as well as Mint Hill Road, Mintwood Road entrance. And the next slide. So there are multiple opportunities for the potential artwork that have been identified. Freestanding sculpture or sculptures with potential seating at the trailhead and or along the trails. Wayfinding elements along trails or throughout the park. Benches or seating in the community garden and or railing surrounding that particular area. And of course, the artwork could also be environmental and it could possibly be interactive. The artist, Meredith Connelly, will work in tandem with the design team to determine the best location for the artwork vision that she will create. And next slide. The artwork goals and criteria. This opportunity should achieve a cohesive and unique aesthetic experience that is distinguished from yet sensitive to the site and the architecture of the Ezell Farms Community Park and the surrounding area. We desire that the artwork be integrated into the site and that it align with Mecklenburg County's historic farm theme and agrarian and nature-based project vision. The artwork should be constructed of durable materials and permanent in nature. And next slide. And so that's it. Are there any questions about any of the information that either Todd or I covered before we move forward? No? All right, so next slide. So it's an extreme pleasure for me to introduce Meredith Connelly to you this evening. I'm excited about working with her. She's just been a joy to work with so far, and we haven't really even gotten started with the project yet. So she's very talented. She's a local artist. She's focused a lot on sculpture and light. And so she's going to come now and share more about her background, her practice, show you some images of her previous artworks, and then engage with you to gather information that will help inspire the artwork for the Ezell Farms Community Park. Meredith, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. So lovely. And it's been great working with you all. And I'm so excited we are here engaging with the community and we can really start to bring this project to life together. So if we could just advance the slide. Art by Meredith Connelly, that's me with one of my sculptures. That is actually from a project called Lights, and I'll share a little bit more about that as we progress along. We can go to the next slide too. So I'm inspired by science, nature, and technology. So it makes a lot of sense with the farm and the park and the history that it aligns really well conceptually with what I create and as an artist. I believe that people connect through art, and I use lighting as a material, and that's really a way that I find it further connects the viewer in a way that I've not seen before with other sculptural forms. Now, the work will be viewed during the day as well. So we'll talk about that as we go along too, how I might use my materials and what I'm drawn to. But science, nature, technology, those really drive what I create. And if you've been out to the landscape there, like I've traipsed around, oh, there's so much inspiration. So I can't wait to hear again from each of you what you might be drawn to there. So we can advance again to the next slide, please. I have been selected for past public art projects. My first public art project was, big public art project was at the U.S. National Whitewater Center. I really started engaging with the community through the Arts and Science Council actually doing their community supported arts project. I've also done work through Charlotte Center City Partners with a temporary installation in the heart of South End. And then I've actually got some other permanent projects in the works for early this year, one at Atherton Mill that opens in February, and then another at Charlotte Art League's new building. So this is really exciting because I'm really bridging into not just public temporary work, but permanent work. So by the time we get to this installation, I'll have some additional experience under my belt that I can use and share with the community. We can go ahead to the next slide, please. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. It's a little non-traditional, and I don't want to spend too much time on me because I do want to hear from each of you. But I was a single mom in college. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through art school. When I needed to make, my little one was with me. So I'm really focused on, again, engaging individuals of all ages, stages, and walks of life. I started out with lighting really in college. I started by designing around existing lighting in spaces. And from there, it snowballed. So I took a lot of independent study classes, and I had wonderful professors that really allowed me to explore that. So I worked for 10 years doing 2 jobs, really. One, I worked as an arts advocate at a museum, and then on my vacation days and my nights and my weekends, I made art. So I started out in, educational settings, again, community art centers, museums in the Southeast, until I got my first large public project at the U.S. National Whitewater Center. These 2 images are from that project. I did 2 seasons, nearly 250 artworks the first year, about 400 or so the second year, installed along a half-a-mile trail in the woods. On the left, you'll see this is a detail shot of what I call butterfly eggs. And there were about 25 of those suspended along the trail in trees at different heights, again, to engage different heights of viewers and hopefully get people to look all around, because that's what I like to do when I'm hiking out in nature. On the right, you have Moss, which was a 60-foot fiber optic sculpture that was suspended about 30 feet up above the trail. So again, using light and industrial materials. These materials are really interesting to me as well. A lot of them I like to redefine aesthetically. So obviously for a permanent structure, we're going to use something a little more durable, but I think it's fun to share. On the left, those are actually ball pit balls that I repurposed. And then on the right, again, that's thousands and thousands of pieces of tiny fiber optic thread. So we can advance. So here are some additional examples of the type of work that I do. I really think it's special to walk out in nature, and I kind of reflect, I draw while I'm there. That's really where I get that first ping of inspiration. I think what's really neat about this project is the ping of inspiration will happen with the community, and I'm really excited about that. But on the left, this is where is a great example of how I might use science to integrate into my process. This is I called it Stream. It's over 750 square feet integrated into the landscape. And it actually is a photosensitive, photoreactive gravel. So this actually charges with light and it glows at night. So for me, the science behind that was trying to calculate the correct lumens and installing lights that actually came on during the day in order for it to have this effect without any power at night. Again, I think that's one of the things that's really great as an educational opportunity, is reminding people too that, you know, there's a lot of math and there's a lot of science in what we do as creatives. And this is a prime example of that. It was extremely challenging, and that's probably why it's one of my favorites. On the right, that site is called Crystals, and that is made of a cast resin. That is a really durable material. That is something that could withstand the test of time with some UV additives for something like the Ezell farms. So I'll be looking to materials more like what's on the right, since that's more of a permanent material that would be used. And we can advance on. So these are my babies. There's 18. Now, these are mushrooms. Again, this is a cast fiberglass. There were 18 of them installed. So as you can see, there's the theme here is really having a conversation between art and nature. So it's not just putting a sculpture on a pedestal It's really using the light, using the forms to highlight the natural spaces so that there's a visual conversation there. My hope too is really when I place it, sometimes I'll place it because I understand that the residual light or cast shadow might bring a viewer's attention to something that's already really visually interesting that's growing there. Another thing that I think is really fun when you put sculpture in unexpected places, especially natural environments, is that it's an ever-changing experience. It changes with the seasons, with a cloudy day or a sunny day. So that's something that really excites me again about bringing work outside to Ezell. We can advance. Again, so season 2, a lot of these are from Lights. This really was a bigger project. So season 2 of Lights, I played with the idea of growth over time. So here you saw the first mushrooms, and the idea is that a year has passed and more mushrooms have grown up out of the ground. So in addition to the cast fiberglass, there were 200 hand sculpted thermoplastic mushrooms. What I really like also is the viewer to be curious about how they're powered. So I hope that you all sense that. I try not to hope too much for what viewers might experience, but that's one thing I do. So there are over, 400 ground connections there that we hand wired. So again, science and technology play a role in achieving the aesthetic. So we can go ahead. So this is an example of a wayfinding element that I use. So when Randella was talking about potential ways that we might engage the art and place it in the space, one thing I did with one of my projects was to put these almost as path lights, but instead of just having functional lights, really creating an experience within the experience. So this is actually based off of a turkey tail mushroom. You might, again, see a theme. I have an obsession with fungi. I think they're really interesting. And this is made out of thermoplastic, and then the color is achieved with alcohol ink. And all of the lighting is LED. I'm really focused on sustainable materials. So like the thermoplastic, for instance, can be melted and reused. Not that I really want to melt that turkey tail, but it technically could. We can advance. So one of my more recent projects was through I Heart Rail Trail Lights. You can see this is slightly different because it's juxtaposed with buildings. I wanted to show that just because there will be permanent structures at the park. So I thought it would be an interesting visual for you all to see the different ways that the space might engage with the work. This is called Fairy Ring. It was 85 thermoplastic mushrooms, and we will be opening a permanent version of this in February, hopefully February 17th, if the weather continues to behave. So we can advance. So I'm gonna go on a heartfelt spiel about why public art's important. And I holistically believe this, and it's truly my form of service as a human being and my calling in life. And so being here with you all is a great honor, and I mean that, and I'm gonna try not to get mushy about it because it's really amazing to be able to do this and share this with you all. I believe that it fosters community and culture. I think that it changes the way that we view a space and enhances it. I remember growing up and seeing certain works, and as I grew, my vision of them changed. So really creating memorable connection, and also, especially from a natural, placing it in a natural environment, having the honor and opportunity to highlight elements of the space that are already there and really accolade that is amazing. I place great emphasis on accessibility, and I think that's really what drives my passion with public art, is that it doesn't really matter who you are, where you come from, what language you speak, the color of your skin, your political beliefs, nothing matters in that sense. You still have an opportunity to come upon it and have an art experience. And that's really, really important. And obviously, for me, I would love to connect viewers in a really intentional and meaningful way to the art and the space that it inhabits. So I'm sorry, my phone was connected to my iPad. So that's my first Zoom faux pas of the night. Hopefully first and only, but I also have a dog in the room, so we'll see how that goes. Can we advance to the next slide, please? Thank you. So before I get started, I wanted to just, I really started reflecting on what the power behind this community engagement and this opportunity, and what, you know, my role is on behalf of you all. So I wanted to really put that out, and my intention behind this is really, I'm here to listen. I want to learn. This is your community, and I live in the, you know, in the vicinity and in the area, so it's our community, but I really do want to listen and be present for you all. I'm posing some questions as we advance that will help guide me as I design. I've tried to remain open. Of course, when I went out and saw the landscape, I had some ideas swirling in my head, but I really didn't want to put too much pen to paper until I talked about what's meaningful to you all, because you're going to be going there every day and engaging with the work. And then I will, so what I'll do is listen. I'll try to identify thematic instances, things that I see come up regularly as a group, and from there I'll try my best to integrate that into the design. With that being said, I can't bring everything that everybody says or wants in, but I really will do my best to try to find those overarching commonalities to make something wonderful with you all. Okay, we can go ahead. So again, your role here is, and I want to note that the pictures that you're seeing on these slides now are, I thought it would be fun to share images from my first site visit out to the park. So you'll see things that maybe guide my process naturally. So I thought that they're really lovely. Like, these are seeds from a thistle. So please share your seeds of inspiration. Obviously, I love a pun. So I really want you guys to just be open and honest and share. Please use the chat option. That way I can always go back and make sure that I don't miss anyone. Or if there's something that happened with the last question, you didn't feel like you could get it all out, please put it in the chat. More is more in that sense for me. And most importantly, let's have fun. We're creating together, and that's a magical thing. So I'm excited. So let's start with question number 1, unless people have anything that they need to get out or any questions before we start. Anybody? Perfect. Okay. If you could pick 3 words to describe your connection to the park or the land, what would they be? And you guys can also use your microphones if you like. I can't really see everyone, so it's a little hard. I know for me, something that struck me was vast. It's a 90+ acre park, and the vastness of that landscape just was really striking, especially as the wind blew across the meadow. But that was one thing for me. If we don't, and also I have a ton of questions. So if we're like, this one really didn't hit home for people, we'll move on. But the vastness of the park, really the wilderness there, like just all the wild, like this was an onion cutting from the community garden, which I absolutely loved. Oh, here we go. I see some open space, birds, wind. Here. And I don't know, maybe I can get the chat option up more so I can see, but.
So Meredith, do you want us to go ahead and just share those with you as they come up?
Yeah, or if people, I mean, we can, and if people want to use their I would love for people to use their voices if they're comfortable doing so. But again, it's just, for some reason the audio was kind of fuzzy too. So I don't know if someone tried to do that and was unable to. But if you could, for some reason it's not allowing me on my iPad to show the chat function, unfortunately. But we can actually, it doesn't seem like this one's ringing anybody's bells too hard. So we can also go ahead and.
You did get some responsive. Nature, family, fun, one of the gardeners.
Okay.
Space, birds,
Okay,
wind, calming, history, habits, habitats, timeless, nature, connection, sounds of nature, feel of the grass. So it just took them a moment to.
Oh, no, and no, actually, it's also, you know, faux pas, Zoom faux pas number 2. I now have got my chat up so I can see it a little better.
And Meredith, you did have one question. What drew you to the thistle?
Pardon? It's sculptural. I mean, if you look at it, it's, you'll see there's multiple images. So I really was interested in the different stages and this, like the life cycle of the thistle. It really, I was drawn to it, and the color is really interesting, but really those jagged leaves and how it becomes quite delicate as it opens was really interesting to me. Oh, and there's an avid bird watching group. I'd love to hear more about that as well. Are there certain birds that you see out regularly, or things, or certain creatures that you see at the park pretty regularly? Okay. Well, I think we can keep monitoring the chat, but I think we can probably go to the next slide there. What are you drawn to when you're outside? And I know that I heard some of those like buzzwords, but really, like when you're outside, when you're going to the park or walking, and you can see, obviously this is what I talked about with the vastness and the grasses. But what are you drawn to at Ezell, or in general when you're outdoors traipsing? I love the trees too. There's a really old tree on the property that's got all these, and I think I've got an aerial image of it next. It's juxtaposed with like one of the old farm pieces of equipment that's still there. That's quite lovely. I don't know if you've seen it, but I agree with you. The trees are always great. Bodies of water. Ferns. I'm a big fern fan. I love the way they unfurl. Part of it, looking up. So that's something that I think is really an interesting point, is just perspective and really looking all different directions, because we get a different experience depending on what we're looking at and where it's positioned. Center and edges. These are all really great. Oh my gosh, love it. Thank you. Okay, I think we can advance to the next question. So this is a really, really big one for me. And oh, here's the piece of farm equipment next to the tree that I was speaking of. I love how it's like overgrown. Is integrating the history of the land or the farm into the design important to the community or important to you? And I mean, even, do you all know a lot about the history? Okay, I see someone, there we go, yes. Okay. Well, I like that. What's really interesting is even if you aren't from here, but you have an interest in learning, there's opportunity to engage and learn through art in that way too, by integrating that in. Agricultural history. I think that's really interesting. I agree. And I mean, it's really neat when you're out there to see like some of the remnants of that past history, and the way that the design and focus on the plan is to make sure that that's preserved and reflected. Yeah, I agree that it really does set it apart, and it kind of stays true to the DNA of the farm. Oh, I see. This is so cool. I actually didn't know that house was originally beneath the oaks there. So I guess I'll have, when I go back, I'll have to really look around that space. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So Forbes, do you remember like seeing the house? Not to call you out, but like, did you grow up in the area or see it, or did you just know that from knowing the history? Yeah, I would really love more stories, and really don't be shy. I don't have to be the only voice on here. Oh, I missed Katie's, who stewarded the land prior to colonization. I would really like to know that as well. Your neighbor did. Okay, thanks, Forbes. I'll have to kind of check into that history and see if we can have some, find some old images or information. That's always really helpful, just hearing firsthand what people would remember about the space or the history. These are all really great. Okay, let's see. I think, yep, let's see here. What area of the park's new plan or space are you most excited about? I know that we had some avid gardeners, which I am also an avid gardener, and we could have a whole other community session about mushroom compost, but that's not for tonight. But do I have anyone in this session that is very excited about the new plans, or even what they love about the current park that they want to make sure stays intact, or that we harness the charm of the land and that kind of thing? Okay. Well, that was a trick question because everybody was supposed to say the art, but we'll let it pass. No, I'm kidding. Okay. But again, here you can see the thistle. So I love that someone asked about that, because it's funny how it's just continued to resurface regularly in some of these initial images. So I think we can advance. What do you hope to experience or feel within the park through art, or in general, really? I saw something pop up. Could somebody tell me what that?
Yeah, Meredith.
Sorry.
So to the previous question,
Yeah.
Someone commented the walking trails, and then
Yeah.
as a gardener, it's very peaceful. It would be nice to blend the park with nature and maintain that feel.
Well, that I really agree with that. And I think that that's what is, like, to me, really nature is really the past, the present, and the future in general, when we really think about it. And I think that that's something that is foundationally there for the park. So I agree. And I'd love the art to reflect the native plant life. That's really cool. I love that too. And that's on my list already, just to research what's there. And as you can see, I started exploring the fungal formations and things. But yeah, are there, Jesse, were there any native plants that you were drawn to, or that you really enjoy, that you've seen at the park on the farm? Or really anybody. I know we've got gardeners. I saw an as a gardener from Ken. So Ken, haven't been out there. I'm trying to learn about our native plants here. Well, hey, I mean, again, that's another great opportunity to teach, is, through art, by reflecting on those native plants. Ken, do you have any experience out there with plants that you've seen, that you see frequently growing? Okay. Well, it's in the chat if we need it, or people think of it. So we can actually advance to the next question. How might art enhance or complement the land or design? We kind of talked about that a little bit. I think someone mentioned kind of that juxtaposition or conversation between nature, but do you all have any thoughts on that? How it might really connect to what's there? Okay. Well, we can, well, that question's there if y'all think of something.
Yeah, and we got one comment, Meredith.
Oh, okay.
Wonder and curiosity about nature and the nature of art.
What, yeah, thank you. What makes you curious when you're outside, Suzanne, or anyone? Is there anything that just evokes that feeling for you? Yeah, I agree. Something unexpected, she said, and I'm very similar. And I think that, you know, when I'm walking outside and I find even just like a little red berry that has fallen that you just don't even know how the berry got there or something like that, it's just so lovely. All right, drawing the eye to nature that is sometimes overlooked, like looking up or down. I agree with you, Jesse. I have a tendency to do that naturally when I'm hiking, is looking in the little things. Veggies near the garden, water, fish around the lake, nature, hiking along the trail, sports near the courts, etc. Interesting. Okay. Anybody else have any last thoughts before we go to the next question? Okay, we can advance to the next question, to the thank you. Well, before I go here, does anyone have any, let's just kind of open it up. Any thoughts? They could even be just outlandish, something that you think of that you want to share, an old memory from being there, something about the history, something that you saw there, or something that you'd like to see. Anything like that, if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat, just so that I have that as I review and start designing. So I want to thank everyone. Again, I think I talked about it when I talked about public art, but it really is, it's not just about the work. It's really about the connection that the work creates and what it does for a community. I'm very honored, extremely grateful, humbled, and I'll work really, really hard to create something meaningful for you all. I don't take it lightly, and I want to make sure that I capture the essence of, you know, everyone's thoughts and reflect on that, and then I'll put pen to paper and we'll get started. So thank you all very much for being here.
Yeah, and Meredith, on behalf of ASC, I'd just like to say thank you for accepting this commission, and lucky to be working with you, and can't wait to see what you come up with. We did have one question. I'm going to direct it to James Williams. I hope James is still on. We had a question about the park hours, and will the Ezell's Farm Community Park be open after dark?
Yeah, Todd, it's from dusk to dawn. It will close. It's not open at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not to discount using light in the artwork. It's just where we place it will have to be strategic so that it can be seen outside of the park. So.
And another thing that I would like to note is that, you know, some of my projects, they had night hours. And so it was very specific to that time of day or night. But that's something that I take into consideration when designing, that this is a work that is something that you engage with both during the day and at night. And, you know, I'm playing with and thinking about, these are very early stages, but how I could do that with materials or sunlight coming through the work or cast shadows. There's a lot of ways to play with light and natural light beyond illuminating from within, which I also still love, and we might be incorporated. Oh,
And
I
then-
didn't see that question come up, sorry.
No problem. There was a follow-up question about consideration regarding light pollution. And is that something that's come up in your work before, Meredith?
So it was a lot of times when they were installed in nature, we talked about it, but it was for very short periods of time. The work it's all LED, but it was 12 volts. So it was very dim, soft lighting. We have not had issues with it. So that hasn't really come up, but it's something that, I'm open to exploring further for sure.
Yeah, and that's something we at ASC can help you with as well in terms
Yeah.
of making those determinations. All right. Well, I'd like to
I did
echo-
want to
Yes,
let them know that this is the first of 2 community engagements. So Meredith will come up with her concept. She'll share that with the county and the Public Art Commission. Once she gets approval, she'll come back and share that with the community to gather your feedback. So be on the lookout in the next 4 to 6 months for another invite to come back.
All right, thanks for that, Rendella. And in closing, I'd just like to echo Meredith's thanks, and thank you all for joining us tonight. This really doesn't happen without you. So thanks for taking the time this evening to hear more about the project and share some inspirations with Meredith. And as Rendella said, we will have another community engagement meeting. In the meantime, Meredith is going to take your thoughts today and begin her concept development for this great piece of public art. So really looking forward
I can't wait. I'm so excited, guys. I can't wait to share this with you soon. I hope you guys come back for the next session.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.